So my talk is around continuous delivery, and as Stephanie has said, I'm a principal engineer in Dell EMC, and specifically in a group known as GS Tools, and there are a number of my colleagues here today. And we develop software applications, tools and analytics, predominantly for the storage area within storage products, I suppose, within Dell EMC. And the reason I specifically call out the group, GS Tools, is that the majority of this talk is around our journey towards continuous delivery within that group. So I'm basically going to go through in this talk why we moved to continuous delivery, a little overview about what continuous delivery is, and then the changes that we made within our organisation at an organisational level, at a process level and at a technical level. And then in summary I will talk about the conclusions and the benefits of continuous delivery. This is not a technical talk, so if somebody is looking for lots of code on how you do continuous delivery, this is not this talk. So just to briefly go through, like from a historical perspective, where we started with software delivery would have been with the waterfall, the traditional method. And the problem with waterfall for us was that the only way really that waterfall works is if end users know precisely what they want. Otherwise, this traditional way of delivering software won't work. So then we moved towards an Agile methodology. We started off with Scrum, and the whole reason of doing iterative design processes, multiple teams, multiple sprints, delivering bits of functionality until we had the full product. And I suppose this was a definite improvement for us on the waterfall way of delivering, but it still has a number of key issues that I will go into later in more detail, but you like deadlines still that you need to work to, and you still have the big bang approach. And in the majority of cases, users see and test systems for the first time at the very end, regardless of what way you're delivering the software. So typically in our group, this is what would have happened, is that we would have had some commitment at a higher level. Management says, yeah, we can deliver this piece of, or this product for you in 6 months, a year, whatever, pick a number. So there would be some commitment made to a date before you'd ever even have your requirements. And then eventually you'd get some requirements, maybe not very well fleshed out, often at a very high granular level. And these requirements then would be handed down to your architects, your developers, and then there'd be another handoff to your testers, your QA department, to test what you've implemented. But a lot of the time, what you'd implemented would come back in, and sometimes it would come back in the next sprint, because QA would have found an issue. And we had this term that we would, when trying to gauge the status of where you were with your project, people would ask, is it done or is it done? In other words, has it really gone all the way to everyone being happy with what's been delivered? And from there, then, we've that bit done and we move on. And the closer we get to the deadline date, the higher the levels of stress. And I suppose then, to try and mitigate the fact that we've still got a bunch of features or a bunch of functionality to deliver as we're getting closer and closer to our deadline date. A lot of the time we get more resources being put on the team. And this is a disaster, because all that does, really, in a lot of ways, is you have a lot of people coming on that are maybe new to the project, new to what's already been implemented. And there is an expectation sometimes at higher levels that, let's say, if you put 10 more people onto a project, hey, you go 10 times faster, right? Yes? No, not at all. And in a lot of cases it's kind kind of detrimental to what's even being delivered, because again, as we get closer to our deadline, we have lots of late nights. Hey, we get free pizza though, sometimes. And as your GA date is coming, there's a lot more, both from new resources coming in and from, let's say, the fact that there's so much functionality that still has to get delivered. The corners are cut. And one of the first ways that corners get cut is tests get dropped, usually. We've got to just get it out the door. Or refactoring never happens, you know, because it really is very much, we must get this out the door. So copy and paste, you know, you all know about copy and paste. And so that increases your technical debt. And so, but hey, we finally get our GA. Everyone is delighted, exhausted, but there's a number of other things that go on as well. And I suppose, first of all, once you go GA, your users are seeing your system then for the first time. Typically, you might have had a number of beta test users or alpha test users, but generally, it's the users see and test this for the first time. And the problem with that, and I think we've all heard of cases, and we have even some, you know, where there's a big announcement, and then the very first day, the system crashes. Too many logins, too many downloads, lots of reasons why. Because it's only at that point that the users, you have any gauge of how many users you're going to have, how they'll interact with the system, what will happen. And so you get lots of bugs being logged. And is it really what the customer wanted in the first place? You know, did the customer even know what they wanted? And generally, what we have found is that typically customers don't. They have a general idea of what they want, but not really the specifics. And so we, after one such iteration within the group of delivering software like this, and a particularly painful one, which I suppose was the reason it took us out of our comfort zone of doing what, you know, was the next recommended software development way of, you know, just going through Agile, going through Scrum. And what we did is we had a retrospective and went through as a group very much around how can we change what we're doing? How can we make it better for everyone within the organization? Because one of the key problems with the way we were delivering software was the level of demotivation, or, you know, the lack of pride in the work, the sense that as software developers, really we didn't deliver such a great product, because with all these bugs, mountain of technical debt, are we better than that? You know, there's a real sense that we didn't really do such a great job. And that can be quite demotivating. So how can we take pride in the work that we do? And, okay, and how can we avoid last minute mayhem and chaos? That's what that one under there says. And at a business level, how can we focus in a better way on what the business really wants? There has to be a better way that we can deliver what the customer wants in a way that we can focus straight away on what brings the next bit of business value. How do we eliminate unnecessary handovers? As I described in that picture, you know, we were going from our PDMs to sometimes requirements teams, sometimes not, onto our architects, then onto our developers, then onto our QA, then onto our release management. And how do we stop all of that? And I'll talk a bit more about that unnecessary handover in a minute, because one of the key areas there is the levels of communication that go on. Excuse me. And then how do we eliminate scope creep? You know, if you have a clear definition of what it is that you're going to be delivering, you know, you eliminate that. But a lot of the time when you're getting such high levels of requirements, it's up for grabs how people think that should be implemented. So continuous delivery, when we looked around, having had this retrospective, one of the, I suppose, the mechanisms that was being proposed at the time, had been out a number of years at that point, was continuous delivery. And that resonated with us in a number of ways, especially around, you know, delivering quality. So this is a quote from Martin Fowler, and it's based off, continuous delivery comes from a book by Jez Humble and David Farley. And there's a number of, I suppose there's only maybe two main areas that I want to focus on here. And one is, like, if your software is deployable, then you're guaranteeing its quality. You have to. It has to be what you wanted. It has to be able to integrate with all the other bits of functionality that it's supposed to integrate with. And the second one I want to maybe focus on a little bit is the feedback loop. You know, from what the advantages that continuous delivery give are that you're continuously getting feedback. The minute your code is merged, you're able to see, does this integrate properly with our other systems? Does it function with our other systems? Does it do the job that it's supposed to do? And these are the key ones that we wanted. And from the other way from feedback is you're getting feedback at, you know, once you decide to push the button, you're getting your feedback. So you can choose when you get feedback from your users as well. And you're getting fast feedback there too. So from an organisational perspective, the things that we changed. We flattened our hierarchy, and I'll talk a bit more about why we did that in our next slide. At an upper level of management, we had a commitment that they would stop committing to deadline dates, or at least specific dates, and that we had to march to that date. And then, as well as flattening, there was the emergence, I suppose, of a new team within our group that would help focus on particularly the business perspective. So this was the traditional way we would communicate. The PDM, the product manager, would, I'm not sure how other groups organise, but they would talk to the customers, or they would be the subject matter expert and decide what the requirements were. This is the way we work in our organisation. And so they would communicate the requirements, then we'd have the architects, there'd be a handoff, those requirements would be communicated to the architects, and you'd have your design. And then the design and the requirements would be handed off to the developers, then to QA, then to release management, and then finally to production. But in reality, it never flowed like that. It was this, which is just a total and utter mess. You know, communication at all levels, because, you know, for some of the fundamental reasons that I've mentioned, you know, if you don't know what it is that you're supposed to deliver, how can you deliver it? And how can you deliver it effectively? And so, at a communication level, everyone was talking to everyone else. And if that isn't bad enough, they were also talking over multiple mediums. You'd have the chats, the one-on-one chats, you'd have the phone calls, you'd have the emails, you'd have the Jira story. We work with Jira and Confluence, and I don't know, do other people work with this software here? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. So we use Jira, we use Confluence, and other of the Atlassian products. And so you'd have bits of information all over the place. And you would have architects who would have one vision, the PDM would have another. And also you can see from this, like, everyone is just being inundated, and especially the closer we got to deadline date, the PDM was such a blocker because they were being communicated with left, right and centre. And, you know, the answers had to come from them, so they're a huge blocker at that point to delivering anything. So we wanted to get away from this communication mess, really. And this is also the whole thing on handover, you know, so an idea going from the PDM to architects to developers, then on to QA, and then on to release management and whatnot. So we flattened this, and so now we have three main areas. And one of the other key things that this does is, this is the new group that I was talking about, which is solutions analysts. Okay, they did make a big bang. Not the one I was meaning, but there you go. And Right. So I have these little speech bubbles here just to say the kinds of conversations that we have. So what the Solutions Analyst Group do is they work with the PDMs and sometimes the customers to basically narrow down the focus into what is your minimum viable product. You want a product released, what's the minimum that you want? And out of that conversation, and we call that an inception, we come up with features. And then when we get closer to our data, and I'll talk about it in a minute, but this is at a high level, I will talk more about the minimum viable feature. And we do feature-oriented delivery with our continuous delivery. And so these are the three groups. The delivery team, once the delivery team gets a piece of functionality, they are the owners of that all the way to production. So there's no other handing off, going back to the architects, well the architects designed it this way, or there's no other handoff to the QA team. There is no QA team as we knew it 3 years ago within our organization. So we just have a delivery team. And basically, getting to our MVF now and our kickoff, we have this meeting. So rather, again, than this whole mess of communication where an idea has come down, everyone involved in the feature is at the meeting to kick off the feature. So there's nobody arriving 2 weeks later saying, oh, what was it all about? Or, you know, what is it I'm supposed to be implementing? Everyone knows. And the focus of it, it's run by the solutions analyst for a number of reasons, right? So we organize it in such a way that, okay, how many people have been in a meeting with a load of developers and a product manager? And what typically happens, right? They'll say what they want, and then we as developers, what do? I say, oh yeah, you could do it this way. And what about implementing it this way? And oh, we have this database over here that would certainly. So your meeting has gone to chaos and implementation almost straight away, before you've ever even figured out what it is that you're supposed to be delivering, or what really at a key level your product manager and your customer wants. So the solutions analyst, we don't talk about implementation and a kickoff. It's banned almost, but the solutions analyst drives this, and we have key questions that we ask and key things communicated. One is, why at a business level do you want this? Why is this the next thing that you want done? What is it going to give us at a business level if we implement this now? And then the second thing that we do is we focus down, okay, this is what you want. Now of that, what is or are the key components of that you want now? What is it that you want delivered immediately? And then so we agree our scope, and there's a very clear definition then of what it means to be done with what we take on. And so once the kickoff has taken place, we have our Kanban delivery team that take that, and that's typically 4 to 6 people. So I just want to talk briefly about why we chose Kanban over Scrum. The reason we did is that, again, it's all about the focus. We focus completely. The team, once it takes it on, do not get taken off onto other projects, do not get involved in anything else other than focusing on delivering this feature. That's their priority. They are the owners of delivering this piece of functionality all the way to production. And so what Kanban does is we're able to focus it by limiting the work in progress. I don't know, are many familiar with Kanban here? Yeah. Have you played the Kanban game? It's really great because it does at a very high level, and this is what, when we started using Kanban, we did play the Kanban game, and it really does bring out these key points of limiting the work in progress, focus on getting a story all the way across the board. This is key. So rather than 7 different pieces of work being on, and you're working on this bit, and you're over here working on this, you work on one piece of functionality and you get it all the way to production. And we have a single team ownership, so once it's ready for us as a team, the delivery team own it from start to finish, all the way to production. We do all the testing, we do all the development, we do all the design. And there's also no, it's not a case of, oh, we've got to get it done in 2 weeks, or we've got to get it done in 3 weeks. It's done when it's done. That's it. We do not focus on time. Management can focus on time and give status reports on how well things are going, but we, as a delivery team, we don't care. We know we'll deliver this piece of functionality, and I suppose that does frame the context a little when we have the discussion about what's in scope. We generally have an idea of what it is that we can deliver within a 2 to 3 week period, but we're never held to any time or anything like that. And so that was at an organisational level. So now at a technical level, the things then that we had to or did change that worked for us. And the first thing, I'm not sure how well or where I am with time. Does anyone know? Sorry?
20 minutes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So front end first focus, and this is not. Let me just go through. So this is front end first, the old way. So we'd have the front end folks would go off, and once we had our story defined, the front end folks would go off and do their bit, and the back end folks would go off and do their bit, and then it usually looked like this. And you'd spend the next 2 or 3 days integrating, if you were lucky. And they'd say, oh, but we thought it was this, and oh, we thought it was that. So what front end first focus, the way we do this is we start with mock-ups, low level, low fidelity mock-ups, which a mock-up is basically like if I know you want a button that says X, we'll draw, and we'll put in the button that says X, and we might have another mock-up that says, well, when you click that, we want this message to appear. And that goes back to our PDMs, it goes back and forth to our customers until we agree what our front end will look like. Because when we're delivering business value, where is it seen? Where is it apparent that we've delivered something? It's the front end. How do you know that a customer is going to use it? It's from the front end. So we focus on our mock-ups, and once they're agreed, we'll define the API. We use REST, and we've also adopted microservices, and we deploy to cloud. We also have older products that use other technologies, but so we use REST as our API for our main central platform. And we agree the REST and the resources, the front-end resources that are required, not a back-end, not a database, not anything like that. What is it? What is the information that is needed at the front end for us to deliver what we're going to deliver? And once they are agreed and documented, we then create our stories. So out of that, we break up the work that we want to do on the feature, because we now have a clear idea of how we want the feature, how the feature is going to look. And now, when I say low fidelity, what I mean is, we're not having this where, oh, it was a square button on the mock-up and this is round, what's going on here? We allow our UI experts, our UX experts, we have one now, to decide how it will really look and how it might best look. But at a functional level, we know what the flow is and how we want it, and how it's been agreed with the product manager. So then we break up our stories, and this is kind of what our Kanban board would look like. And I only put this here for, one of the things is we flipped how we do, and this was based off somebody reading some article somewhere, which was like, we read right to left. So with the focus with Kanban is you're getting stories off the board. So we put test first, because that's the way we read, right? So we put test first, then our dev done, dev in progress, prep done, prep whatever. So we're always focusing on trying to get the next piece of functionality all the way to production. And only at this point can coding begin. So the next, absolutely mandatory thing for continuous delivery is our testing. How do you know, going back to Martin Fowler's quote, the whole thing was around automated feedback, that your system is deployable. And I suppose I should point out, that we don't just do continuous delivery, we actually do continuous deployment in our main system. There is a difference. It's not only deployable, we flick a switch, but once we've gone so far, but it is continuous deployment in essence that we do on our main frameworks. So we've many levels of testing. The unit tests, we do test-driven development across the board. 3 or 4 years ago we would have said we were doing test-driven development, but like I said, tests went out the window, you know, the closer you got to GA. Because of this, we tend to pair a lot, and it's something we recommend. We're flexible on how the teams will self-organise and deliver the work. It's up to the team how they want to deliver it. This is key as well. But we do unit testing and ping-pong pairing, which is just basically one person writes the test and the other person fixes the test and writes the next failing test. That's kind of what the ping-pong pairing is about. We do contract tests, because we've API and everything is REST-driven, we use PACT to, and this is kind of a new enough thing that we've implemented as another area where maybe we had a gap in our testing. And I have a number of colleagues, Paulo's here, who are going to do a talk at some point on this whole PACT and contract-driven testing. But you're basically guaranteeing that the resource that the consumer is expecting is what the provider gives, you know, so that's really what your contract testing is about. We have component tests. Because we have microservices delivery, we have to exercise basically across the multiple microservices, so we have component tests for everything. And then once we deploy an app, we do a number of other tests. So we have API tests, which is basically like lots of curl calls, just to make sure the services are up. It's kind of just at that level to make sure that what you've deployed is up and running. And user journey tests. Now these are kind of tough ones really, because user journey tests have always been a bit of a pain. You know, when you've got Selenium or whatever, whenever you're going by something that is timing based, it's always very difficult for them not to fail at some point due to some timing issue. Like for these, what I'm talking about here with user journeys is like using something like Selenium is what we use, you know, where you're clicking a button, you're clicking an upload, and you're expecting it to go through. And so we narrowed it completely from what we had in our previous systems, would have been user journey tests that tested everything and took about 7 or 8 hours to run and were continuously breaking anyway. So the level of, for that very reason, on timing issues. So what we do is we've limited the user journey tests to be just a very simple kind of flow through a single use case for the functionality that we deliver. With all these tests, we use AngularJS on the front end. All our JS is tested at the same level, component tests, unit tests. The previous systems that we had, there was no tests at the JavaScript level. As I don't know if many others here use JavaScript and test your JavaScript. You do? Cool. Because otherwise it's a mess. Of course, I don't understand JavaScript that well. I just go in every so often. So this is kind of just a quick picture of what a PACT diagram might look like. You know, the contracts, who's the provider, who's the, and this is probably old at this point. There's probably many more lines. So this is just an example of that. So I haven't mentioned much about how we deliver, but this is kind of the technology stack that we have for our main platform. So we've written a number of frameworks ourselves. Things like so let's say with microservice development, we use a framework to deliver. If you're doing a back-end one, they'll all have a similar controller. So Java is mainly what it's developed in. I didn't really want to go into much on the technology here today because that's really another talk. But the key ones that we use for our CD pipeline are these, as well as we use, you know, a framework that we've created for our automated system. Written in Groovy, but all our code is in Git. I love Git. Having come from some of the other ones, Git is just so nice. So everything's in Git. Every piece of code that's worked on is branched. And so basically every branch is built, it's tested, and we do use Sonar to do some static analysis on the code and on the quality and the coverage, basically. So once a piece of functionality is complete, a PR is raised. Nothing is put onto the main branch without a PR, and we have multiple approvers. And then we build and test the main branch, and from that we create a single artifact once that's successful. And that single artifact, one of the issues before was that, you know, when you go from one system to the next, there'd be a new build. So what was put on one system wasn't what was put on the next system. You know, they'd only be subtle differences, but it was a new build. So you couldn't guarantee that it's the same artifact that's going all the way to production. So this way, once we build, that artifact is stored in Artifactory. Then we deploy that Artifactory to a number of environments. I'll discuss some of them in the next slide. And the next thing is that we have continuous monitoring as well. So this is kind of an example of how our builds work once you merge. So there's the checkout and tagging once the tests are complete, and then the deployment. So this is your build artifacts, and that will put it up to Artifactory, and then from there we deploy to our multiple environments. So the first, and we do blue-green deployment as well, so the systems are always up and running. So we deploy to CIT. This is our continuous integration environment, so this is our first environment where we say, is everything working as it should? And we've tested that run there. We verify that our new version of our code is up and running, and at any point it can fail. So the next environment that we go to is our staging environment, and this is where we do some of our testing, but if our product managers, if other users want to come and look at what something looks like, that's the staging environment. And once it gets to there, we hit the button and deploy to production. So because of that, and sorry, let me just go back there a minute. You can see if it fails, what we have is monitoring, and if a build fails, we have 3 television screens, maybe 4, around the office, and they all come up with something like this. So in this particular case, because it's an automated test, we don't actually have a suspect. It wasn't somebody who committed the code. So Shane decided on Clint Eastwood for that one. So
have no name.
sorry, excuse me. And the screen tells us immediately. So this is your automated and fast feedback, which is basically, it tells you immediately if something's gone wrong. One of the other technical changes, and this is really, product managers especially, when they hear about this whole thing on continuous delivery, go, oh, but no, I don't want user X to see that, or I don't want, that's not ready yet, or whatever it is. So feature toggling is key to keeping them happy, but it's key anyway, because there are times you want to release something or whatever. So feature toggling is very much around, and again, because we're front end first, you're basically preventing a user being able to interact with that piece of functionality at the UI level. That's really what you're doing, until the PDM says, yeah, you're good to go, turn it on. And they usually like to have a little news item that goes with it. So this is, again, just at a very high level, the technology stack that we have. How am I doing? It is what it is. We have other products as well, but this is our main one. So, as I said, we use Pivotal Cloud Foundry, and these are a number of our we've written frameworks, for user management, data management, all of these sorts of things that we all control. So the last area is the monitoring. How do you know that what you've put on the system works and is functioning as it should? And again, this is another piece of software that I just think is amazing, which is New Relic. Any of you here familiar with it? Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's really good. And it's excellent for monitoring our systems because it gives you analytics of, let's say, what endpoints have been hit, what's running, how many times something has been hit. And this would be like from our production environment, we would keep track of things like how many production environments, how many deploys we've had today, what are the main URLs that are hit. And when I said that QA, our QA focus has been totally restructured. So there isn't somebody we hand off to test, that the button that was supposed to do functionality X, Y, and Z does it. We don't have that kind of test anymore. We do that within our delivery team. What we have now is the concept of test analysts, and we'd only have a few of those, and their main focus really is on monitoring systems. How is the system working as a whole? Is there anything that we could maybe be doing better? We're doing that anyway, but that is what a test analyst role is. So basically the conclusions and looking forward. Well, for this to work, really, it does require buy-in at all levels of the organisation. And we were given the scope to implement this ourselves from the ground up. So we were not only working with new technologies, but we were allowed to implement this strategy ourselves from within the development organisation upwards. And as you can see, there's a lot of upfront costs. I think somebody quoted recently that we do about 60% of our time is testing on these systems. Testing is key for continuous delivery to work. And then I've talked briefly about as well the impact of how, our QA department is a very different thing than what it was 3 years ago. And we now have this fantastic team that helps us focus on the delivery, the business value, and what is the next piece of business value that we need to deliver. We get fast feedback from our end users. One thing I didn't mention as well is we use Slack. So if a build fails, within Teams we use Slack for all our communication. So again, it's in one area, so you don't have this mess of communication all over the place. If a build fails, you're notified in Slack. We have certain channels that notify it, as well as the radiators, so people not in the office still know about it. They can't say they didn't see it. And so Slack is our main form. It's also where we get feedback, so if there's feedback at the production level, it comes into our Slack channel as well. Feature toggling, because the PDMs do still need to have control over when things are released. And the other big thing is the scope creep. We really only develop what needs to be developed. And we've seen it so often where a customer says they want this feature, and this feature. And you say, well, okay, we'll give you this round. And a number of times it's been, yeah, actually, now that I've seen this, I don't need that other one at all. This will do for me. And this has happened to us multiple times. So you limit the waste, you limit the development of just useless code that is never used. There's tremendous pride in the work that we do. Our team is just transformed, and we're very proud of the software we deliver and how we deliver it. And there's no deadline stress. GAs and features and announcements just come and go. We don't care. It's tremendous, really. And the only other thing would be that, if there is something that is a critical issue somewhere, we can just turn it around just like that, because you implement your fix and it's up in production within an hour or 2 hours or however long it took you to fix it, basically. You just hit the button and go. So, that's it. And the last one was the quality of the product. So this is an old slide. But I think you get the general gist. The amount of bugs we find on our production code is minimal. We're delivering more and more features. We're deploying to production multiple times a day. And our quality has just gone through the roof. The looking forward, another key thing is after every feature, we get together. We talk about what went well, what didn't go well. we're continually looking at improving our processes and continually looking at how we could do it better as a team or at a wider process level as well. And okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Hi Mary, thanks for the talk. You said you have to sell continuous integration to management, they have to buy into it, and there's a lot of upfront cost. Can you measure the return on investment in a tangible way, or is it just through the quality of the software at the end product?
I think the quality as well, and then you could say another way would be in the feedback we get from our customers. I mean, it is just without a doubt positive, always positive. From a measurable perspective, I'm sure there are, many charts. I don't look at charts, but within, the whole Kanban, you can look at how, and you can see it there, how many features we deliver, how many productions we've made, how often we do delivery of features. These things are quantifiable. Does that help?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And I suppose you can't actually say we've saved 200,000 euros by spending 600,000 or whatever.
I wouldn't know any monetary numbers now, but I'm sure you could extrapolate whatever way you want to. But I would say one of the other big measures is the lack of waste on what we deliver. We just deliver what the customer wants and nothing more. No big designs, grand designs that will work in 10 years' time. You deliver what is needed for now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Yeah, so you mentioned there about the product managers. Do they deal with one service delivery team, or do they deal with many?
Generally, it's for the way we work is that the product managers have like a particular area of focus. So it's generally one, but sometimes it's multiple.
Okay.
But once they get on this, we kind of have to have a commitment really that they're focused on this particular product as opposed to any other product at that point in time. If they've prioritized this work over anything else, then you need to make it a priority. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was probably going to feed into the second part where I was just wondering how do you get them all in one room?
Well, we use WebEx a lot as well, but WebEx, so just conference calls and video calls, because our product managers are primarily in the States. So we use WebEx, and then we do record all our sessions as well for the time where somebody is on holidays and they're working on the team.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mary. Were there any new tools that were needed to be landed to support your new processes?
All of those. Yes, is the answer.
They were all new versus?
They were all new.
Okay,
we started on well, Artifactory we'd had before. Git was new, everything else in there on in was new. We were lucky enough really that we were able to start with, you say greenfield or whatever development when we started this process. I mean, we now say that, a lot of our continuous delivery process we put on the older systems as well. Now, I wouldn't guarantee continuous deployment, but we do continuous delivery on the older systems as well. But all of that was new. Every single bit of it, including REST, including APIs, including microservices, including Pivotal, the whole lot. So.
It's always possible to do continuous delivery. You mentioned some of the older infrastructure and stuff, so we've got certain core bits of infrastructure, database being one that auto-deploying to is more difficult or dangerous even.
I suppose it is a call really, and what I'm saying is I feel that you can certainly do a certain amount of it, and again this almost goes back to your minimum viable. Even if you work that process through bringing in or implementing continuous delivery, just take a little bit and attempt to do that in a continuous delivery manner. I mean, to try and go back and retrofit this to older systems, you can't do. But like right now I'm working on an older system and we don't do it on the older code, but all the newer code we do it on. So it's certainly possible, and I think it brings huge benefit.
Volunteers are not allowed to ask questions, are they? I was just wondering how you deal with parafunctional requirements like security, performance, load testing, things like that.
I don't know. Security. We have built our own security platform as well, using Spring Security. How do you deal with what?
I guess every time you implement something, there's security impact potentially. There's performance impact,
yes.
Resiliency issues potentially,
yeah.
Those kinds of things. Outside of the pure functional stuff, the parafunctional stuff, the stuff that, you know.
Well, I suppose we do have that framework, so all our code is coming in through the same security framework, so that's all implemented. You can't get at the code. We've authorization is another framework component that we have, you know, so that you're only in if you're authorized to do so. And then from the load performance perspective, we do have other tests that will test, you know, giving, I don't know, 1,000 requests a minute or whatever it is. That's those API tests. We have an internal name for that, which is we call CA, which I think originally meant kill all applications. So, which was basically like you hammer the system so fast that you know, is the system resilient enough? And it is really all down to testing. And what was the last one?
Resiliency.
I suppose the microservices give you a lot of that. You know, each bit is independent, each has its own repo. You know, we don't do a lot of cross where you'd have a single point of failure, you know, and so each bit, we do blue-green deployments then as well, so the systems are always up.
Excellent. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Might make this our last question.
Mary, great talk.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you do TDD and you thought that you did before. So what was the difference between the two? How did you recognize that you weren't doing it? And were there any obstacles to adopting it?
Well, I suppose, you know, like with lots of things, you can't force people to do a lot of things. And we would say, you know, it was our aim and ambition to do test-driven development. And, you know, some people, it's difficult sometimes where people say, oh, there's a test there already, why do I need to add a new one? But so we monitor that a lot with SonarQube, the coverage, and you know, once the coverage is at a particular level, we don't aim all the time for 100% because, you know, but what we say is when you put in your piece of code, we don't want the coverage to drop. So, you know, if you're starting with an older system that already doesn't have the level of coverage you want to make sure that you stay at that level, that what you're testing is there. TDD, it's just part of the culture at this point where, you know, when we're doing our pairing, we want to deliver quality software. We want our software tested properly. And we know that it's key to this. So it's a culture shift really, I suppose, as well, you know, that has happened within the group.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary.
Thank you.